My name is Wiep van Bunge and I'm a professor of the history of philosophy, and I concentrate in my research on the history of early modern philosophy. A history of philosophy in the 17th century Dutch Republic, one on Spinoza, who's of course the main Dutch philosopher. Now I'm trying to complete a book on the history of the 18th century Dutch Republic. Our department consists of 4 sections: history of philosophy, but also what we call theoretical philosophy, which comprises the philosophy of science, logic, and in our case we concentrate on the philosophy of the social sciences. Then there is a section practical philosophy and a section philosophy of man and culture, which is one of the last spots, I should say, in the Netherlands, one of the last places where continental philosophy is being practiced. I think what makes us distinctive internationally is mainly the way in which we cooperate with other disciplines. We do not practice philosophy for the sake of philosophy. We as philosophers feel that we have to work in close cooperation with, for instance, the social sciences or the historians. One of the most prominent research projects here at this faculty is, of course, the research conducted in the Erasmus Institute for the Philosophy of Economics, which has its own research master, which has its own PhD course, extremely successful and I think unique in the world. A second group within theoretical philosophy, which is now becoming extremely successful, is working on a more general theory of science. Recently, a Vichy, very prestigious Vichy grant was awarded to Fred Muller, who's recently been appointed on a special chair on the philosophy of the exact sciences. PhD students play a very prominent part in all our major research programs. I mean, in an important sense. They carry these programs, they carry out the research. They're being taken very seriously. And an advantage for a foreigner may well be what has often been described as our relatively horizontal social structures. The difference between, the distinction between a professor and a PhD student may not be as large here as elsewhere. But that's typically Dutch, I suppose. I think Rotterdam may be an excellent reason to come here to Erasmus University. I think it's one of the best kept secrets of the Netherlands. Many foreigners tell us that they consider it to be the only real city of the Netherlands. It has a very multicultural flavor. It has a vibrant cultural infrastructure. You have to find your way around, but it's an exciting place to be. And of course in the heart of Holland, in close vicinity to The Hague, to Utrecht and to Amsterdam. That is one of the perks of living in the province of Holland, of course.
The amount of opportunity and potential that you can get from the University of Birmingham, I think is unmatched, and the degree programme that I chose, PRE, was just no other university offered a course like it, and the course is so important because that's what you're studying for the next 3 years. That's the most important thing that you can do, is choose a good course and then choose a good reputable university to at, and the University of Birmingham has both those things. The course offered so many pathways and different features, and it was so broad that it allowed me to study a wide range of things, which is something that I really enjoyed doing. My favourite module is theological ethics. So it's basically everything that I want to do in the future. Being able to look at ethical issues, opening up debates that are very contemporary, and being able to explore them not only from a religious viewpoint, from a good ethical perspective. As someone who's looking to go into law and human rights, being able to study really in-depth ethics is something that I've found absolutely fascinating, and it's probably been the most useful thing for me, and it's absolutely perfect. It's exactly what I want to do in the future, and being able to study that now at a high level and in depth is setting me up really nicely to go into law. So I love the fact Birmingham's a massive city. It's my home city. It's somewhere I'm proud of, and everything's big, but at the same time it's accessible. There's great transport. Everything's either in walking distance. and it's a very underrated place, and it's a lovely place. Main two societies that I'm involved in. Another student and I set up a society for our degree programme, which has been great, offering socials, and then sports-wise involved in the rowing team. That's a sport I started at university and then now moved on to a committee position and competing at a high level, which I really enjoy doing. First thing I'd say is make sure you get to an open day. Get down, there's accommodation open days, and then there's university open days, and then applicant visit days. So get a good feel for the university you're applying to. Make sure that you know what you're getting into, and just come and enjoy it, and you walk onto campus and you suddenly realise this is the university for me, and I hope that happens for you.
Hi, welcome to the UNC Ashville Philosophy Department. My name is Kea Maitra and I am the chair of the department. I'm really excited and glad that you are interested in joining on the philosophical journey of inquiry and engagement.
I have 1 year left here at UNCA, and being a philosophy major has been just a blessing. I love going to class every day. The readings that I do for class are applicable to my life and also help me to get in touch with, the history of our world and the history of thought. And it's a really great way to supplement other studies that I do on campus.
Since my very first semester when I took ancient philosophy, every semester after that I wouldn't live if I couldn't take more philosophy. And it helps me every day in a million ways because I'm learning to think better and better. And every time you study a new text or read a new author or think about a thing a new way, it sticks and you get to use it for the rest of your life.
We have 5 faculty members who are themselves very talented in very different fields. And so this community, this philosophy community here at UNC Ashville is not only one of great breadth in terms of materials covered and in terms of the discourses that are undergone, but is also one that is very connected to a variety of individuals throughout both this country and, quite frankly, internationally in a variety of philosophical disciplines.
Well, I'm actually hoping to get into philosophical counseling. So since I'm a double major in psych, I'm hoping to go to grad school to get my master's in philosophy, and then I want to go into counseling because I really want to help people, but my passion is in philosophy. So I want to just make a hybrid of those and get into that.
It's mostly the style of thinking that you learn, of logic, of very rigorous intellectual inquiry, of just carefully thinking through things, critical thinking that really changes every aspect of your life, from how you converse with friends, how you interact with random strangers, how you view politics, how you watch things in the media. It's, so every aspect of my life has changed gradually throughout my experience in philosophy.
I think it really needs to be emphasized that philosophy is not only an academic discipline. Philosophy is a way of thinking, is a way of engagement. It is a way of taking the world and trying to understand it and analyze it and interpret it and draw some sort of meaning from it.
Majoring in philosophy is one of the best ways to learn essential critical thinking skills, communication skills, and flexible reasoning skills necessary in the 21st century. We hope you enjoy this short introduction to our department.
Studying philosophy at university is one of the best decisions you could make if you're interested in these very abstract, fascinating questions that have preoccupied the greatest minds of our civilization for the last 2,000 years.
The course at Cambridge is a 3-year course. In the first 2 years it's compulsory to study logic and metaphysics. These are subjects that deal with questions to do with the nature of language or the nature of the mind. In addition to that, there are options that can be pursued in all 3 years. These include political philosophy, ethics, the history of the subject, as well as experimental psychology and a range of other topics.
The BA degree in philosophy in Cambridge is a single subject degree. You only study philosophy, you don't study in combination with any other subject, and it's widely recognised to be one of the best, if not the best, single subject philosophy degrees in the country.
All the students know each other and they all know the staff, so it's quite a small but close community.
Structurally, my favourite aspect of the course is supervisions, because it's a really amazing process to have, somebody very well informed and who writes philosophy themselves. They spend an hour of their time looking at your work in that kind of detail.
I always wanted to study philosophy since I finished my GCSEs. I wanted to study philosophy, and Cambridge is just the place to study philosophy. It's just really exciting to be here and be taught by the people who write the course books.
Many of my students have gone into work involving computers or finance. Another popular route is law, so many people do philosophy and then go into a 1-year law conversion course. There are also traditional career routes that you would expect for people who do humanities subjects, for instance journalism and the civil service.
I did an internship this summer, which has actually led to me getting a job when I leave uni, which is really good, and I think that the fact that I did philosophy actually really helped with that.
I plan to apply for the PhD programme, and then if that goes well, then sort of the eventual aim would be to sort of end up in academia, like be a philosopher.
I think the thing that we look for in applicants above all is a genuine interest in philosophy, which at that stage is often indistinguishable from a genuine curiosity about the world around them.
I think it's important to read in depth. The chances are what's going to be important is whether you can argue a case, whether you actually understand what you've read.
Even if you don't think you've done much philosophy before, you probably have, because we all think about philosophical things kind of all the time. So look for the philosophy everywhere. You've probably done more than you think.
It just tends to be really gripping and intellectually exciting.
You can't really make a difference in the world unless you understand the world and you understand the way the world works.
It's like seeing something in color instead of black and white. So it just makes the world a more interesting place. There's not a bad or even average teacher in the department. Everybody is phenomenal. Research universities will often go for the great scholar who really can't bring the A game in the classroom. We insist on getting both.
Good teachers are good scholars, and good scholars should be good teachers.
One of the great things about Claremont McKenna is the really vibrant energy that we have in our classrooms. And I think most of us probably in the philosophy department teach more in a discussion format, so there's just a lot of exchange of ideas.
But we get to spend a lot of one-on-one time with our students. It really gives us the sort of opportunity to get these students connected with the world of professional philosophy in a way you might not be able to do at a large school where these great students can just kind of slip through the cracks.
I think for all of us, one of the best things about teaching at CMC is the quality of the students.
Compared to philosophy students that I've known elsewhere, they're in general more focused on questions of how they can take the philosophy that they're learning and apply it to the real world.
They're very disciplined and hardworking and ambitious
You know, at a liberal arts college like this, where almost all the students live on campus, you know, for almost all 4 years, it's more than just a sort of purely academic experience. It's more of a kind of cultural and just sort of life experience. It's a community. It's an intellectual community.
I think students end up with a much higher critical ability than they had at first.
A nice thing about CMC is it's oriented toward preparing students for what they're going to do in the future.
Students tend to have very successful careers in medicine, in law, sometimes graduate school. But of course, just as importantly, they don't only find success, they find it interesting while they're doing it.
Philosophy majors are so good and always score really at the top of the ranks on things like the law school admission test or the GMAT. Philosophy majors do very well on those tests because they know how to solve problems. Sometimes I say to students, if you give me 4 years and we'll talk about hard problems like whether God exists or how do you live ethically, then the LSAT just doesn't seem so hard.
I woke up this morning, science is success on my mind. I woke up this morning, science is success on my mind. If you don't believe in miracles, you gotta be a realist of some kind.
Philosophy is conceived of in this department not as a kind of standalone discipline, but as an intellectual activity that should be conducted along with other forms of inquiry and in particular with the natural, social and policy sciences. And this is reflected both in the research that we do, but also in the degrees that we offer.
The type of philosophy that we do here is not armchair philosophy, so it's very much informed by empirical evidence and it informs policy making as well.
I suppose the main orientation, let's say, of the department is towards naturalised philosophy, that is philosophy informed by and continuous with the sciences.
Philosophy shouldn't be something detached, isolated, something that we're just doing for our own sake. Philosophy should make a difference.
I say think of Fresnel, think of Maxwell. Oh, my theory fits them so well. You see the equation.
This is a department that's very committed to teaching people how to think analytically and rigorously. And these are kinds of skills that are important to acquire no matter what your future plans are.
So in the department we have 4 different MSc degrees. There's the MSc in Philosophy and Public Policy, MSc in Philosophy of the Social Sciences, MSc in Philosophy of Science, and the MSc in Economics and Philosophy.
Yeah, well, I think in most MScs in philosophy or MAs in philosophy, it's people who've done philosophy undergraduate who come in and then do some more philosophy. Our MScs, we have a mixture of that with people coming in who, if it's MSc in philosophy of science, who've taken science as their first degree, might have done physics or biochemistry or whatever, who have developed an interest in philosophical issues. And the interaction of those people with people who've done philosophy, I think, produces a nice synergy.
So I'd done my undergrad in biology and my master's in biology, and then I sort of realised that biology wasn't really for me, sort of lab work and that kind of thing. And around the time I was doing my master's, my first master's, I kind of started getting interested in philosophy. So I chose the LSE department because I really liked that it had a good mix of taught courses as well as a dissertation component. I felt like, because I hadn't had any formal philosophy training before, that I really needed the structure of those taught courses.
Saw you there at the logic lecture, and I knew I just had to get you. There ain't no possible world in which I won't. There ain't no...
I think this kind of philosophy is something that you can super easily sell to any future employer. So even if you don't stay within academia, you will be able to tell you were working on issues and problems that are relevant, that matter, and you were taking your philosophical tools towards these issues.
I did philosophy and public policy at the LSE, and I'm currently working for the UK government as a civil servant. I worked for the Minister for Internet Safety and Security, and then I went on to work on EU strategy, which I'm currently doing. What I really love about the philosophy department is how practically you're able to approach political issues. Like, for example, health policy. You're looking into how the NHS prioritizes its resources. And it's a very political issue, but you approach it so objectively and approach it from a moral standpoint, from a philosophical standpoint. I don't think you can study that anywhere else.
It's great to have a master's from somewhere that's so internationally recognised and respected, and I applied to the US as well as in the UK, so I think it really helped to have that master's from LSE on my CV.
The atmosphere here is really exceptional. I mean, London, of course, is a highly cosmopolitan, energetic place, and the LSE and the philosophy department are those 10 times over. You'll see immediately when you come here, the student body is drawn from absolutely everywhere in the world, the faculty is drawn from absolutely everywhere in the world. It's an enormously energetic, dynamic place.
One of the things I liked about the LSE philosophy department is that despite the fact that it's one of these world-renowned departments, it's still fairly small.
The people are really excellent, so both as researchers and as teachers, in rankings we regularly do extremely well, yet at the same time it's still very friendly. You can always find someone to chat with, and there's not this feeling that it's extremely competitive in any way.
We have a departmental rock and roll band called, against my better judgment, The Critique of Pure Rhythm, and we play 50s, 60s old-fashioned rock and roll. We basically the Beatles in Hamburg.
Saw you there at the logic lecture, and I knew I just had to get you. There ain't no possible world in which
The Department of Philosophy, Logic and Scientific Method has a highly distinctive approach to the study and research of philosophy and an international reputation for its work. It's a place where you will acquire strong philosophical skills, and skills that will be useful to you no matter what your future plans are. I look forward to seeing you all here one day.
there ain't no possible world in which we don't. Our lives were false, but everything else was real.
It teaches you to approach the world in a more critical way. People go through the world and they make a lot of assumptions about a lot of things, and they never question those particular assumptions that they make. And I think it's very healthy to do that.
That's one thing that philosophy does. It makes you really think about things that you never would think about.
There's a big distinction, very important distinction between knowing a lot about philosophy on the one hand and being a philosopher. And you can know a lot about philosophy without being a philosopher. And our goal at Brooks is to help students to be philosophers.
Philosophy is a kind of subject where it develops your knowledge, obviously, of what you're looking at, but it also develops you as a person. So because it's more of a friendly, laid-back atmosphere in the class, you're allowed to debate, you're allowed to put forward your opinions, but also you have the opportunity to listen to other people.
That's one of the things that did attract me to the course as well, especially when it came to their talk when I visited. It was, they said they were the friendly philosophers, but they generally are very nice people, and just, you don't feel like you're bothering them when you have questions to ask.
The department at Brooks is a small one, but as a result it's quite an intimate one, so you get to spend a lot of time with other people and with your lecturers, and that is invaluable in doing philosophy.
Every term there's a whole range of talks about philosophy and about culture and about what it is to be human and things like that, which is run by lecturers at Brooks.
Sometimes you do talks on things that actually we're doing at the time in the course. So that's always helpful in terms of just trying to make your essay better really and bring it up another level.
The talk would give you an opportunity to come and see something that you probably wouldn't see in your course and just open you up to new ideas. There will quite often be speakers from other universities, so if you're particularly interested in a particular area, it would be an opportunity to meet someone else who did that work.
One of the things that we like our students to do is to engage in philosophical activities outside of the classroom. We think that philosophy can mean something to lots of people, so we do a range of activities. One key development which has taken place over the last couple of years involves going into local secondary and primary schools to deliver philosophy to the children there.
You go into schools and you kind of facilitate in a classroom with kids. And so we went into a Year 7 class and we spent 5 weeks teaching them and helping them learn about philosophy. But it wasn't like you gave them the facts. It was more that you helped them discover their own opinions and learn more about philosophy through talking to each other.
We do have a very, very active philosophy society, and that gives students an opportunity to get involved in organising events for their fellow students. So they would organise things like visiting speakers or dissertation reading groups or social events.
That was kind of the target of the Philosophy Society, was to have these social gatherings where people all from the same course or people outside the course who are also interested in philosophy to come along, do a bit of philosophy. And if it wasn't a talk, we'd hold a discussion or a debate, which people love getting involved in.
That active, dynamic experience that the students have really does help them to develop. And I think that helps them to become genuine philosophers rather than just people who know a lot about philosophy.
It's not just based on providing you with knowledge, it's helping you mature as a person.
The people I met and the sort of friendliness I saw in the department that really attracted me to come here. I knew I'd be comfortable from like day one.
A train is running out of control down a track. In its path are 5 people who've been tied to the track. Fortunately, you can flip a switch that will lead the train down a different track, where unfortunately 1 person is tied. Should you flip the switch? Is it better to kill 1 person to save 5? Is it your fault if you get involved? Are you responsible either way? Big questions, ethical questions, philosophical questions, and just the kind of questions you'll explore with a MacEwan degree in philosophy. What is philosophy? Well, that too is a big question. But let's try this. Philosophy is the study of big questions. Questions about how should one live, ethics, or what is right and wrong? What sort of things exist and what are their essential natures, metaphysics, or what is the nature of reality? What counts as genuine knowledge? Epistemology, or how do I know that I know what I think I know? And what are the correct principles of reasoning? Logic, or does this make sense? Maybe it's better to tell you about the kinds of courses you would take as a MacEwan philosophy major. How about knowledge and reality, with topics like identity, death and immortality, the nature of God, perception, space and time? Sounds kind of interesting. Or social and political philosophy, with topics like justice and power. There's philosophy of the mind, philosophy of religion, of the environment, and the philosophy of love and sex. You'll learn about the great thinkers from Socrates to Nietzsche, from Aristotle to Kant. And why would you take a MacEwan degree in philosophy? I mean, other than you will be awesome at dinner parties? Well, think on this. School is where you go to learn how to think. And philosophy is the discipline that studies how to think. I mean, sure, it can be extremely practical. Ethics can relate directly to business, medicine, public policy, and law, not to mention how you live your own life. Philosophy can illuminate ideas found in all the social sciences like psychology, sociology, and political science. And philosophy is probably the most important adjunct to any educational pursuit insofar as it teaches analytical thinking, logical presentation, and competence with abstract concepts. Okay, you learn to think good. And really, who doesn't need a good thinker on the team? You'd be surprised how many CEOs started with a degree in philosophy. It is also interesting to note that philosophy majors are consistently among the very best in standardized tests for admission to law school and business school and med school. A philosophy degree is an excellent foundation for work, for further education, and for life. Basically, a MacEwan philosophy grad is qualified to think, and you'll be doing some big thinking on some big questions. So, don't just sit there thinking about it. Go and start a philosophy degree at MacEwan today. I think, therefore I am. Gonna go now.
To me, philosophy is ideas that end up shaping the way that we live.
Thinking about old ideas in a new way and coming back to things and questioning their authority, their rightness, their wrongness.
Philosophy is important because it gives me the opportunity to think critically, think clearly about the most fundamental questions.
What is love? What is nature? What is justice? What is right and wrong?
Even in the workplace, when you study philosophy, you learn to think in unique and inventive ways.
Learning those skills, becoming a good speaker, becoming a good critical thinker, becoming a good writer, those are really the skills that are kind of necessary in all different areas in life. So no matter what you choose to do afterwards, I think you'll be very successful at it.
My favorite thing about studying at Ryerson is the smaller class sizes and the fact that it's really a more intimate experience.
You have a lot of people who come from different backgrounds, all walks of life, and who have different ideas.
My favorite thing about studying at Ryerson University is probably the location. Being downtown Toronto is wonderful.
You know your professors on a first-name basis instead of just being a student number to them.
They're also amazing teachers who are passionate about the subject, enthusiastic, and really kind of want you to succeed. They're willing to teach. They walk you slowly through the issues and the topics. They're very friendly and accessible.
They're willing to go the extra mile for you to kind of help you in any way that they can to succeed.
I'm really thankful for all the close attention and insight that Ryerson faculty provided me with. I can't say I would be anywhere close to where I am now without all of their help.
I would definitely recommend studying philosophy at Ryerson.
Hello, I'm Michael Beatty, Chair of the Department of Philosophy at Baylor University. If you're watching this video, then you're interested in our program. We have a faculty that excels in scholarship, teaching, and mentoring our graduate students. Our placement record is very strong. Equally important, our graduate students have a high level of satisfaction because of their relationship to our faculty and because of the unique and vibrant community they enjoy with one another and us while they're here. There are few Christian universities whose faith animates the graduate program. Ours does. If you find this kind of education inviting, please apply.
One of the things that drew me the most to coming to Baylor was when I visited as a prospective student, the people that I met of all different years were really excited about each other's work as well as their own.
We have a really first-rate faculty here at Baylor, and we have a national presence at conferences.
They like to talk about their work with students. They're very willing to meet, talk about our work. You have different TA assignment each semester, usually during your first 3 years, so you're learning teaching from those people.
When we admit a student, we feel like we're making a commitment to that student, and we're going to do everything we can to help our students succeed.
When we've had personal difficulties, I mean, they've stepped in
find ways to really care about us and support us through the program.
The department is very proactive about placement for graduate students.
Two courses that are really important. One is a writing course where they work on teaching us how to write the kinds of papers, philosophical papers that get accepted to conferences and journals.
We have a teaching class. We have a course, therefore, that's designed for an entire semester to help us learn how to teach.
I think one of the things that sets the program apart in general is that we have an understanding that most of our students will go on to teach.
We also train them to become people who are going to participate in the profession. One of the real strengths of our program is the strength of the community. Faculty and students have a lot of interaction, both in class and out of class. But the students have a very strong sense of community among themselves as well.
The graduate students have regular potlucks. There's a graduate student who runs a games night.
We also have every Friday a colloquium.
They will read their papers to the group and then get critical feedback. It's great practice for presenting papers at conferences.
Baylor tends to draw people in who are looking for both the scholarly excellence and who are looking to have genuine community.
The whole reason for starting a PhD program in philosophy at Baylor was that Baylor is a Christian school in the Baptist tradition, but ecumenically Christian. And we felt like there really wasn't a Protestant Christian school that had high-level graduate education in philosophy.
And that makes it very healthy for your faith. You're not trying to hide it, you're not trying to figure it out on your own, but it's just part of the life as a grad student here.
We typically don't admit a student unless we're prepared to give them financial aid.
We receive 5 years of guaranteed funding.
We also do try to help students go to attend professional conferences.
And I was able to go to 2 conferences last year with the help of both the graduate school and the department itself. I chose Baylor in large part because I loved the community of people that I met when I was a prospective student visiting, but I also loved that there was an emphasis specifically on teaching and learning to teach well.
It helps us to remember that we're not simply here to do philosophy work, but we're also here to grow as whole persons.
To summarize it, a strong commitment to Christian life, while at the same time serious commitment to teaching and research in philosophy.
My name is Tamsin Rawlings and I'm in my 3rd year studying philosophy at the University of Nottingham. I first came to Nottingham for an open day and I was really blown away about how beautiful the campus was. It's the first thing that I noticed. I looked at London and I looked at other places and none of them had the feeling of space, and I think that's important when you're studying, to have just greenness around you. The lake and the arts centre and all of those other facilities that are here attached and near to the university are so beneficial, I think, when you're on your course.
I think the main thing that philosophy teaches you is the ability to critically analyse arguments, to be able to come up with your own arguments, to be able to take apart what someone's saying.
Philosophy means love of wisdom. And it was a subject that was first brought out by Socrates many centuries ago. He saw philosophy as an antidote to common sense. Instead of just jumping for the simplest answer, he thought it was worth spending time thinking a little bit harder about it. And what he found was that many of our common sense beliefs turn out to be false. They don't withstand scrutiny.
I looked at the philosophy department and I was really blown away by the enthusiasm of the staff there. I think that it's very infectious. You can tell that they know what they're talking about and they're passionate about what they're talking about, I think is the most important. And when they teach you, you can't help but be interested, even in some of the more dry philosophical subjects that are a bit far out there, talking about brains in vats, things like that. But you get into it and you get involved, and I think that's the best thing about this department.
The teaching at undergraduate and postgraduate level is very good. The teaching at undergraduate level is award-winning. The staff, some of the staff do podcasting. They use a lot of e-learning, which is a bit jargony, but it means that they use PowerPoint, they use podcast, they use student response units. So in some of the modules, for example in my applied ethics classes, I get the students to press buttons to vote, which sounds a bit gimmicky, but what it allows me to do is guide the teaching in response to the students. So if I think that no one's going to think fox hunting is morally acceptable and everyone does, then I can change how I approach the teaching. So there's lots of interactive, new, cutting-edge teaching going on in the department, and it's well recognised as being a good teaching department.
So, well, as far as the university goes, I think it's got quite good facilities for research students. So there's a decent library, and in the philosophy department we've got like a postgraduate research room which has got desks and computers and even some comfy chairs and things like that, so that we can comfortably do some philosophy there.
Nottingham is the type of place that enables you to do all sorts of things. There's opportunities everywhere if you just look for them.
My name is Peter Canilano. I'm an undergraduate junior here at Clemson in the Department of Philosophy and Religion. I'm also minoring in business administration as I seek to pursue my MBA. Philosophy really tailors me into the business world as I study ethics and logic. The Department of Philosophy and Religion is a really, really great program. I'm currently pursuing a BA, which they also have pre-law, pre-med, and pre-religious studies concentrations. But with the BA, I really am able to tailor my desires to the classes that I take. The Department of Philosophy and Religion really lets me expand my academic desires. It's full of friendly people. They really make you feel at home and make you feel that you can get through these studies correctly. Even though it is a very challenging major, the department helps you achieve your success. The faculty in the Department of Philosophy and Religion are really, really smart, which is also kind of scary because when you sit down and you think you know what you're talking about, they will prove you wrong. And that strives the student to achieve more knowledge and to really get into the issue. And it's really great because the teachers recognize your passion, and as long as you come in a respectful manner, they'll gladly sit down and talk to you during any office hour and really discuss your issue and why you are probably wrong and they are right. The Department of Philosophy and Religion will needs to anything you want to do. If any career you're looking to get into, philosophy is there for you. It's a great undergraduate major, as well as our many other humanities majors. But philosophy provides you with logical skills that can benefit you in any career you choose to go on. So I really recommend taking a philosophy course or just coming and chatting with your professor, because you never know how it might change your life. Come join us at the Department of Philosophy and Religion at Clemson University.
You're sitting in a classroom watching this strange short film on television. How do you know for sure that you're not just at home in bed dreaming it? How can you be certain that everything you think you know, the chair you're sitting on, the room around you, everything that you're so certain that you can see, hear and touch, isn't just a figment of your imagination? What if the TV you're watching now is no more real than the image of this beach is a real beach? How can you ever know for sure? And if you can't be absolutely certain of something as fundamental as the reality of the world around you, then what can you be certain of? If you've ever wondered about questions like these, then you've already started to do philosophy.
I'd always had an interest in other sorts of questions, other ways of thinking, and I read a lot when I was a teenager and when I was coming up to leaving school. But I didn't really know what philosophy was.
When I was accepted onto the course and we were all discussing what we were going to be doing in college. It was the reaction was sort of like, English and what?
When I told my parents that I was going to do philosophy in Trinity, they were shocked and horrified, but mainly because they didn't quite understand what philosophy entailed.
Philosophy is the most fundamental of all disciplines, taking nothing for granted, calling everything into question, unique in both its methods and the range and depth of subjects it covers. To study it is to open and to sharpen the mind. A degree in philosophy in Trinity College Dublin will give you the space, the depth of teaching, and the opportunity to mix with other students. It will allow you to develop a set of mental tools useful in any other intellectual discipline, to cultivate the ability to see things and understand people from outside the prison of conventional and unquestioned ideas.
But you're also doing that in this incredibly beautiful, very atmospheric campus that's right in the middle of the city. The great thing about philosophy is it's not about learning a whole lot of dates or regurgitating loads of books that you have to read and remember. It's about trying to have some original takes on things that are your own.
Pretty much transformed the way I think, and I was kind of amazed at myself, the transition I'd made.
A degree in philosophy makes you feel very comfortable in those kinds of circumstances where you have to debate or argue with somebody, where you have to put your point across. Like, it's not a soft thing. It's also a kind of, it gives you a kind of weapon.
I always get a sort of a smug feeling that I have an edge when I get into arguments in a pub over a table, and we're just debating matters of existence or even just of daily life.
You have this intuitive sense that there is something that's not right about what someone is telling you, which is useful in all kinds of things. Business, it's massively useful, but also in your personal life.
I suppose that I'm a person who asks questions all the time. That's what my career as a journalist requires me to question everything that I see. It was there in a very nascent form when I came in, but it definitely developed while I was a student of philosophy.
You get to read and encounter some of the cleverest and most original thinkers. It's like having a conversation with a room full of the smartest and often most iconoclastic and original and unconventional thinkers.
Philosophy is the rigorous and systematic attempt to find answers to the most fundamental questions. Questions about the nature of existence, consciousness, knowledge, justice, meaning. It forces us to confront and strip bare the assumptions and preconceptions that are so buried in the way we ordinarily think that for most of us, most of the time, they're invisible.
Philosophy is that discipline dealing with the most fundamental questions about existence in general and human existence. Some of the major philosophical questions are these: why is there something rather than nothing? Why is there being or existence at all? And also, why are things the way they are? Given that we're in a cosmos, why is it ordered the way that it is? Why does it manifest the properties, the apparent laws that it does?
UCD School of Philosophy is the largest and most diverse department of philosophy in the island of Ireland. Most students do philosophy because of the love of the subject, but in these tough times, of course, it's natural for students and their parents to worry about jobs. In fact, the sort of skills that philosophy offers, skills such as critical thinking, skills such as problem solving, skills such as organizing and categorizing a whole range of ideas and data, these are the skills that employers are looking for.
You can even apply philosophy to the supermarket. For example, when I go into a supermarket, I'm already being oriented or controlled in a certain way. I'm sent down certain aisles, they rearrange the packaging, because they're already psychologically manipulating the way I look at things, what I have to look at. So philosophical critique, philosophically going under the world of apparent common sense, can be applied to anything, even a visit to a supermarket.
Philosophy is an inquiry. Philosophy is asking questions. There's all sorts of questions you can ask, from the profound to the not so profound. But if you go back to ancient Greek philosophy, back to Socrates, who you could argue is the father of modern philosophy to a degree, all Socrates did was that he would wander around squares and have conversations with people, and he would just ask the question, why? Why do you think that? And when the person answered that question, he would say, but why do you think that? And you just drill down and drill down and drill down into systems of thought.
I suppose from a very young age, I was very conscious of things that were going on in the world that I didn't like, that there was a lot of conflict in the world, that there was a lot of unfairness in the world. And so I knew from a very early age that I wanted to be in the middle of that. I was very drawn to problems and trying to sort them out. And despite the fact that philosophy isn't on the Leaving Cert course, if you've good teachers, and I was lucky to have great teachers at home in Wexford, you have a sense of that history of thought, and that thinking and reflecting is part of fixing things. It's not just about shouting, it's not just about getting into the thick of a scrap. There's a number of philosophy graduates working in Amnesty, and as an employer now, as someone who recruits, if I see philosophy on a degree or on a CV that comes into me, I'm very keen to meet that person, because if they've done it right and they've spent the time, then they have really tried to expand their own critical capacity.
One of the most distinctive things about UCD is how well represented all the different forms or schools of philosophy are. It's well known for having a really strong continental department, but there's also brilliant analytic teachers, there's really good ancient scholars. So I think it's difficult to find a college where you'd have such a broad representation and a strong representation of all the different schools of philosophy.
You can learn from excellent teachers a whole range of different schools of philosophical thought, which is really important.
We disagree on many fundamental issues, myself and my colleagues, but the point is we all agree about how to approach these issues, how to argue without resorting to mere opinion, without resorting to the loudest voice, and so on and so forth.
If you're going to learn something, why not learn about the substratum and the basis of all kind of learning in all academia?
I'm Naomi Goulder, I'm Head of Philosophy at NCH. People often think of it as a very unworldly discipline, but although it is abstract, it's actually concerned with questions that will occur to anyone in the course of their life. So questions about beauty, justice, the relations between mind and world, the nature of reality. The college was founded by philosopher A.C. Grayling, who also teaches on the degree. But the distinctive thing about philosophy here is, first of all, at the level of the tutorial teaching. So rather than simply sitting in lectures, writing notes, submitting essays, and occasionally getting some written comments, our students are every week submitting essays to discuss individually as well as in small groups with tutors who will help them formulate and defend their ideas and arguments, help draw those arguments into relationship with the theories and traditions of other thinkers. I might even say that the kind of open-mindedness and curiosity that's so essential to our discipline might even give an advantage to a novice. One of the debates that really divides students in the very first year, I find, is the free will debate. Some students come to philosophy really obsessed with the free will debate. Some just find it so dull because they just think, well, obviously we're not really free in that sense, let's just get on with things. And that's, so there's an example where one just has to talk to the students, and in fact some students end up writing their exams on free will, others just don't focus on that debate. That's fine by me. So every student at the college, whether they're studying economics or English literature or history or law, they're all taking some philosophy courses as part of the core program. So there's this I think it's quite in some ways exciting that for the philosophy degree students here, that they are actually it's surrounded by people who could understand some elementary parts of what they're doing. Philosophy graduates have some of the very best records in terms of graduate employment. Philosophy graduates do better even than law graduates in the law school entrance exams. They have the highest level of numeracy of any arts subject graduates, and they have the highest level of written skills of any art subject other than English language. I mean, that rings true to me because of as I said before, the distinctive combination that philosophy requires of this very analytical, logical reasoning capacity with an extra attention to the details of expression. We have very many eminent philosophy professors who come in and speak, not as part of the degree course necessarily, but in the evenings usually. So Simon Blackburn, I mentioned, has been here speaking about David Hume lately, and last year spoke on 6 great moments in the history of philosophy. Daniel Dennett is arriving next week to speak about cultural evolution. And I think Chris Peacock is here next week as well, talking about the first person. So I guess the fact that the college has these this kind of layer of evening events that often have associated discussions, debates and so on, and all students can attend, that means that the philosophy students here are really immersed in the activity of philosophizing in a way that wouldn't necessarily happen elsewhere. There's an image of the philosopher as a kind of old man with a grey beard, and I think we really should try to disrupt and get rid of that image, because really it's an activity that is a kind of youthful activity. Even a child will ask why, and the philosopher is really pursuing that in a just more serious and focused way. Yeah.
This figure on top is what's called a surrogate mourner. It mourns in your place, right? So you put this figure on top of a tomb and it stays with the bodies of the deceased, mourning eternally, right? In perpetuity, forever. What does that indicate as a culture about what we owe the dead? In particular, the theme of death seems especially powerful for provoking philosophical reflection or reflection on our lives, and etc. It's often said that death is a mirror in which we see ourselves. The philosophical response is always to try to ask the most fundamental of questions. What is justice? What is the good? What does it mean to be anything at all? And so what we have is then an opportunity to study places or objects where our own self-understanding is concentrated and expressed in material culture. I've found in philosophy that the most challenging teachers are really the most highly respected and highly evaluated, and I think we've been able to pull that off in philosophy, and we sort of expect it of each other, and therefore we expect it of our students. And that's at least what our philosophy majors report back to us, is that they came to philosophy because of the challenge of thinking.
The strength and prominence of the philosophy department is seen in many different ways and in many different places. Certainly the prominence of their individual faculty in the discipline of continental philosophy is well known and recognized nationally and internationally. They have many leading scholars. Their productivity in terms of the publication of books and monographs and essays is exceptional.
We identify around a specific area of philosophy. We're not generalists. We decided to go the route of European philosophy, specialize in that. Very few people in this country do that. They teach logic 1 through 15. We don't do that. We teach thinkers like Plato, Aristotle, Kant, Hegel, Marx, Nietzsche, Heidegger in the European tradition.
The strategy was developed to do two things at the same time. One was to focus on a certain strength that we had within our discipline, which happens to be contemporary European philosophy. And so then the other aspects of philosophy we brought in people who were in conversation with that, and that both intensified the central identity of the department, but while intensifying it allowed for an expansion.
Politics is a continuation of war. Is that literal or metaphorical? We're the only program in the United States where a student can come to get a degree where they can study Chinese philosophy, Latin American philosophy, African philosophy, critical race theory, address questions of genocide, human rights, in addition to feminist philosophy.
I think if there's been any success, and there has been great success in the philosophy department, it really is owed to David Krell's vision. He came here in 1989. He hired many of us who are here now, and at the time he took a chance on us. We were all young, relatively unknown, and he put together a faculty that really gets along. We are very convivial. We enjoy each other's company. We spend a lot of time outside of the department together.
What I did in each occasion was do a very broad job description and then look for people that were writing wonderful articles, papers, books. I read their stuff. Without reading their stuff, I would know nothing. Heard them lecture, saw the energy level, saw the affirmative nature of the personality, the energy, the goodwill. Knew that in a first-year course, a freshman course, they would be as great as they would be supervising a dissertation. I never thought I would quote President Eisenhower, but good teaching is having good people around you. That's what he said about government. And it's absolutely true. With the colleagues that I have, it was a piece of cake to put together a good program.
And again, the state of exception that constitutes law and power. Excellence at DePaul requires strategy. One really has to think strategically on how you're going to get it all done, because there's a tremendous amount of demands on faculty at DePaul. We are not just a teaching institution. Research is expected. However, we're not a Research 1 institution. Outstanding teaching is expected.
The only possible result, if it is a good tragedy, is the realization that the substantive ethical norms of our society and our state are the right ones, and we ought to affirm them, and we ought to live our lives by them.
We can really do something specific with DePaul's mission, that, we have a really high quality philosophy department, and we can offer this to students who otherwise wouldn't have access to higher education, let alone a philosophical education with a national reputation. And I think a number of us really think that's an important part of what we do.
DePaul prides itself on its what we call Vincentian personalism. And that Vincentian personalism is well represented in this department. They understand the importance that they have within the lives of students. And I think students appreciate that very much.
We have a strong undergraduate program and we also have a doctoral program. And the main challenge for us is that 2012 asks us to achieve excellence or maintain our excellence in both. I'd like to try to sell our undergraduate major to people who might go on in business and finance, to law school, to show them that if you want to live a decent life, then philosophy is the major you need. If you want to have a job where you're going to be thinking, philosophy is your program. And so I think that's the main challenge to us is to do what we do better without losing any of the good things we're currently doing. And that's not an easy thing.
We never have the feeling that we haven't prepared people well. We never lose sleep over that. We know that stretching their brains is going to be good for whatever they do. And that's the feedback that we get afterwards. So we lose no sleep. We lose no sleep.
It points a little bit to the distinction between this world with which you're familiar and that other world to which you're going, that beyond. And so this exoticism, I think, also seems to emphasize that distance or that differentiation between the world that we know from our lives and that world we're entering that we don't know anything about.
The department here for philosophy as a whole is absolutely one of the best philosophy departments in continental Europe.
It's a place where cutting-edge research and education in philosophy is done, while at the same time it's a place where you find a very friendly atmosphere.
What is really great about this faculty is that it's in the middle of the center, and the university library is just around the corner. After high school, I did not right away enroll in an academic study, and I drove on a truck in the transport business for a while, and that was really adventure for me. And during those trips, well, some trips were very long, you make long days, and I had these CDs with philosophy lectures on it, and well, it really inspired me, and it spurred me on to study philosophy. My specialization is moral psychology, which is an interdisciplinary field between psychology, sociology and philosophy, and it studies morality. As a research master student, I'm engaged in a research group at the faculty, and this research group consists of other researchers, and we discuss their proposals for future research. We discuss papers. It's like playing in a major league in a way, because you work closely with other researchers. So yeah, looking at them, you can really develop your own skills and knowledge.
So I'm from Brazil originally.
I'm from the Netherlands.
I'm from Poland.
I'm from Sydney, Australia.
When I had to decide where to do my PhD project, I thought Groningen would be a really nice place to do. I thought it would be great to work amongst those people whom I admired so much and felt I still had a lot to learn from.
We offer many courses in English, and all these courses are given by top researchers in their own fields.
So it's really about excellence in research, and excellence in research is rewarded, is promoted. So this really creates a very fruitful environment for researchers.
What does morality expect from us?
What is information? How does it work?
What are the properties that underpin our ability to reason deductively?
How is human knowledge
What do we owe to
knowledge?
doesn't
achieve what it takes to know something.
The philosophical question that has always been on my mind is the question, are there normative constraints on action? And if so, which ones? And how do you build the argument for that? Philosophy deals with questions that are immensely important but can't be answered by doing experiments or looking through archives. Like the question of a doctor who faces a decision, a difficult ethical decision, and who starts to wonder, like, what should I do and why? What I really enjoy here is the way people talk to each other, have lunch together, talk about philosophy and about all kinds of other things across disciplines. I value that a lot because all subdisciplines in philosophy hang together, and so if you stick to your own little group and you don't talk to each other, you miss out, I think, philosophically.
One of the things that struck me when I first started thinking about coming to work here is that people actually have lunch together every day in the kitchen, here downstairs. And I thought this was wonderful. I mean, that's perfect for me. I love to have lunch with people. So and that's really, and that, you know, during a lunch, lots of things get discussed and everybody sits together around the table, and that's great.
It's still an independent faculty. We're not part of a big faculty. So you have all the personal contacts you need as a student to do your MA thesis, to work on your MA or BA or a research master.
There's a closeness, there's a sort of camaraderie which you don't get in a lot of places, even some places that are world renowned for their research.
I live 3 hours away from here by train, so I mean the very fact that I do these 3 hours here and back every week, I think says enough about what I think about, you know, about this place.
I think the faculty here absolutely is, you know, it is without any reservation one of the best places in the world to do philosophy. But you would be probably mildly mad if you took my word for it. You should come and visit us.
Hi, I'm Yakavos Vasiliou. I'm the chair of the PhD MA program in philosophy at the CUNY Graduate Center. I'd like to welcome you to our website and hope that you're able to look around and find out a bunch of things about the program.
It's a dynamic, exciting place here in the heart of New York City. You can watch the tourists leaning against our building to look at the top of the Empire State Building.
I'm from Cape Town, South Africa, where I did my undergrad and MA. I'm here at the Graduate Center at CUNY to do my PhD. I also teach at Hunter College, one of the CUNY undergrad schools.
Hi, I'm Zoe Jenkins. I'm a first year in the CUNY PhD program. I'm originally from New York City and I went to Williams College in Massachusetts. I work on philosophy of mind, specifically philosophy of perception and cognitive penetration.
Hi, my name's Stephen Neal. I'm Professor of Philosophy here at the CUNY Graduate Center. My own work is primarily on the philosophy of language. Right now I'm very interested in where that intersects with philosophy of law.
I'm working mainly in metaphysics, particularly interested in the metaphysics of modality.
Also Michael Devitt here and Gary Ostertag and Saul Kripke, all here at the CUNY Graduate Center. And then just down the road at NYU we have Stephen Schiffer and other people down there. A lot of interaction between CUNY and NYU right now. It makes it a very exciting place to study language in all its respects.
We also host the most active philosophy colloquium series in the greater New York City area.
I came to the Graduate Center because I thought it's really on the vanguard of philosophy. So I think the people here, so Stephen Neal, Jesse Prince, Graham Priest, Noel Carroll, it's just a really impressive cast of characters and doing philosophy in the right way, really quite rigorously.
What I like most about CUNY is the sense of community. There's a ton of collaboration between students. Everyone is warm and welcoming. There's a sense of friendly collaboration, and it's never too competitive, and it's always productive.
It's a friendly department, wonderful faculty, very brilliant colleagues that I have, and the students are terrific and help each other a lot. So I hope you'll consider coming here, and thank you very much.
Well, it's a relatively small program, and that's very advantageous for students because you get a lot of individual attention in our program. For example, we have a senior seminar which is conducted as an individualized tutorial. You work one-on-one with a professor on a topic that you're interested in and write a senior thesis.
The faculty that the Kutz Town Philosophy Department has is quite amazing, and it has an amazing program for a state school in philosophy.
We have people, from some of the best universities in this country and, in fact, throughout the world.
Many of the faculty are distinguished scholars in their own areas, some with international reputations as well as national.
For the faculty members at Kutz Town, this is a lot more than a job. It's a passion. And the professors take that passion to their students. They infuse students with their own excitement for the discipline, and it has an effect.
Well, the study of philosophy develops skills in logic, reasoning, critical thinking, writing, and oral communication. And these skills are really valuable in almost any type of employment someone wants to get into. Employers can teach you how to do a specific job, but they can't really tell you how to think. Philosophy is also one of the best preparations for graduate schools. Philosophy majors tend to score the highest on the law school admissions test, the graduate record exam, the graduate management admissions test.
Well, the philosophy classes here at Kutz Town they vary a lot. The lower level classes are basic, and they give you a good rich introduction into the philosophy program. And the upper level courses are more discussion based, and they have a lot of deep discussions on a variety of philosophy topics, from medieval and ancient to contemporary and modern philosophies.
I personally like the small class sizes. I know that a lot of the classes that I've taken outside of philosophy department have been larger in number, and it's hard on multiple levels to connect with your professors and also with your peers in those types of classes when they're very large.
Philosophy classes at Kutz Town are very diverse, and I think that comes from the diverse staff that we have. Dr. Beck teaches completely different from Dr. Ferreira, who teaches completely different from Dr. Lisa, and you come away with different perspectives on different things, and it's incredibly illuminating and fascinating.
So, I mean, apart from the philosophy that you get to do in the classroom, if you're taking a course, there's a philosophy club where a lot of students go to present papers in philosophy, develop their philosophical skills in that venue, and that has a good attendance. A lot of people enjoy that and participate. There are a lot of undergraduate conferences in the local area, and a lot of faculty kind of tell people about this and get them to write papers for it.
Professor Jedwab has been hosting a weekly talk on Wednesday evenings. It's very informal. You just sit around a table, he brings down coffee and cookies and tea, and you talk about whatever interest in philosophy you have at the moment or what you're studying in your class. And most of the professors end up dropping by and contributing to it as well.
The kind of critical thinking skills that you learn in philosophy are transferable, and these will equip you to do pretty much anything.
I think that beginning your academic career in philosophy at Kutz Town University can prepare you for a variety of careers as well as graduate studies.
Well, if you look at the American Philosophical Association website, you'll see that there is at least 19 different areas in which graduates of philosophy are gainfully employed currently. This includes, areas like business, computer technology, consulting, education, engineering, finance, government, insurance, law, marketing, media, publishing, and research, etc. So there's a whole variety of areas in which graduates of philosophy are gainfully employed.
Well, we've had students go to some of the best graduate programs in philosophy in the country, indeed the world. We've had students go on to law school, business school. We've also had students just get good jobs in the field. One student, for example, is an executive at AT&T. Another is a partner at a major accounting firm. And one student started a very successful mountaineering business in Alaska.
I enjoy Kutz Town University, and it has a lot of really interesting things to offer for both academically and socially as well. It's a good, firm basis to be a well-rounded human being.
I would encourage anyone who's looking for a quiet, rural setting, such as Kutz Town is, and who enjoys philosophy, to consider coming and becoming a major in philosophy at Kutz Town.
My name is Jano Aydin, and I'm the Program Director of the Master Philosophy of Science, Technology and Society at the University of Trenton. In this short movie, we would like to take you on a journey through the world of PSTS.
The PSTS program teaches you to analyze and also to evaluate the influence of science and technology on society from a philosophical perspective. Questions are asked like, which ethical issues are involved in human tissue? And are we still human if we are able to grow organs outside the body? Philosophers are involved in state-of-the-art research on biotechnology, nanotechnology, ICT and many other areas. Characteristic for our research program is the importance of not only abstract theoretical reflection, but also rigorous, empirically informed philosophical approaches.
Hi, I'm David, and I'm from Germany, where I studied molecular biology. I came here to the University of Twente to study PSTS because I was interested in the more broader perspective of philosophy and the human-technology relations. We learn to discuss facts instead of just accepting them, and learn to broaden our perspective, more or less. And I think this is kind of a valuable thing in my program.
As you see, we have an internationally vibrant environment. Students come from all over the world and have varying backgrounds, from mechanical engineering to ICT and from biomedical engineering to mathematics. You can also enroll in the program if you have a background in philosophy or social sciences.
Hi, my name is Jochem Zier. I have a bachelor in electrical engineering, and after that bachelor I studied philosophy of technology, science and society here in Twente from 2009 until 2011. After my master's, I got a job as a PhD student in Nijmegen at the Center for Society, Genomics and Society, the Radboud University. And in the project I work on there, I really try to build a bridge between the work that scientists do on the one hand and the social aspects of their work on the other.
If you decide to go for PSTS, you can expect a personal approach. We will help students with a technical background to make a shift from doing technology to reflecting on technology. Students with a background in philosophy or social sciences will get the opportunity to get acquainted with technological approaches and methods that are relevant for PSTS.
Students of PSTS investigated the relationship between the way scientists collaborate internationally and the knowledge production in their field, and found out that marine biologists have a much more open networked system than particle scientists who have a much more top-down structure.
Hi, I'm Federica. I'm a PhD student at the Department of Philosophy and I teach in the PSTS program. In my research project, I reflect on emerging biomedical technologies and their ethical implications. When a technology like this is still emerging, it is really hard to anticipate how it will change our current practices, how it will be used, and how it will alter our responsibilities. For this reason, I visit the lab and I talk to scientists, doctors, and potential users. In the courses I teach for the PSTS program, I try to emphasize the importance of this empirical approach, even when, and especially when addressing big philosophical questions about how technology, for example, can challenge our conceptions of justice, equality, or democracy.
Thank you for watching this short movie about our Master Philosophy of Science, Technology and Society. You can find further information about our program, schedules, teachers and many other things on our website. We also have a very vibrant Facebook community. I'm looking forward to welcoming you at our university.
One of the most striking things about philosophy in Sheffield is the flexibility offered by the department. We don't have any compulsory philosophy modules, so students can choose freely across a very wide range of modules.
For me, it was the flexibility of the course. Given that they're all unrestricted modules, I have friends who are still doing philosophy, but because they choose different modules to me, they're doing a completely different degree, which I think is great.
Sheffield's fantastic because the lecturers are really friendly and they're all really approachable, and there's loads of different ways to get involved apart from your lectures. There's the Philosophy Society, there's Philosophy in the City, there's the departmental seminar, and there's a new undergraduate philosophy journal, Phil and House, which was set up by myself and a couple of other students last year, which was really exciting.
I enjoy wondering about the world, and I think philosophy gives me the chance to grapple with some questions that have been puzzling humankind for thousands of years.
I think Aristotle was right when he said that philosophy begins with a sense of wonder. The kind of students we're looking for are people who find something intriguing and exciting about apparently common features of the everyday world. For example, that we're physical objects, but that we have feelings, or that we care about what's right and what's wrong.
What's exciting for me in general is the way that philosophy affects your life, even when you don't realise it, from the kind of your outlook to the way you're governed, it all kind of has some philosophical grounding.
Since starting university, I feel like I've gained really key and valuable skills. I can critically assess an argument, I can really listen to people and understand their opinion, and I feel like I've gained a lot of confidence and I'm not afraid to voice my opinion. These skills I feel will be really valuable to me in the future.
Philosophy gives you an important set of transferable skills. Reading carefully, thinking through complex material, thinking through a case, an argument, spotting weaknesses and so on. That's why it's excellent preparation for a wide range of jobs.
I think writing critically, writing essays, writing exams, all of those things have helped improve my own communication skills, whether it's writing an email to a client or kind of thinking about projects and writing grant applications and things like that. I think that those skills are something that philosophy taught me and that I was able to directly transfer into my career post-university.
If I had to choose two words to say what I look for in an applicant, they'd be clarity and enthusiasm. Our philosophy degree doesn't have any specific subject requirements, but it's very likely that in A-levels or international baccalaureate or college courses you'll have touched upon subjects which are philosophically interesting. If you can mention one of those in your UCAS application, that'd be a great idea.
I think kind of by its very nature, philosophy is very interdisciplinary. We're kind of the discussants, in a way, of different disciplines. We like to take bits and pieces from some disciplines and put other disciplines together into conversations.
So you're taking these two different areas and you're figuring out, well, how do they fit together? How do they interrelate? And the intellectual skills that are acquired from that are transferable, and they require a breadth and a depth that I don't know if you get in very many other disciplines.
Frankly, of the other schools that I applied to, there was nowhere quite like Waterloo. I thoroughly enjoyed my experience. I was really excited with the research I was doing.
There's a bunch of different kind of work that is valued and respected, and also it's just a collegial place.
One particularly interesting learning experience that we have here as grad students at the University of Waterloo, the annual graduate student conference. It's very competitive just to get accepted to the conference. So we'll often have students from Oxford, Cambridge, MIT.
I've been involved as a research assistant, and that's been an extraordinarily beneficial arrangement for me because I've been able to participate on research on very contemporary, cutting-edge debates. So they've really been great at pushing me in directions that I wouldn't have otherwise gone in.
It's a reciprocal relationship between the student and the supervisor. There's a divide in the amount of experience that you have, and so being able to bounce ideas back and forth across the divide, if you like, the divide in experience, allows us both to grow.
So one thing coming into graduate school that a lot of people are sort of interested in knowing about is what kind of an atmosphere are you going to be in with respect to other graduate students, and it's been fantastic at Waterloo.
So yeah, teaching has been an excellent experience for me as a graduate student, to have the opportunity to be a lecturer and put together classes.
You know, as soon as it hits 12:30, everybody just kind of piles into this room and talks about philosophy. So it's a really fun atmosphere, and it kind of makes you feel welcome.
Getting a job at the University of Waterloo was really getting my dream job. One of the things I enjoy about teaching here is that the students come in well prepared, but all of them have been open-minded.
It's natural to think of philosophy as a very abstract discipline, but everybody in our department does it in a way that engages pretty directly with society, with reality.
So it gives you a skill set that's very domain general and broad that allows you to sort of step into any new situation and be able to make sense of what's going on and move forward in a reasoned and careful manner.
So right now we live in a society that's really science and technology dense. You can't really get through your day without interacting with technology in some way or another, and for a lot of us it's really important in terms of how we do our jobs, how we interact with our families, how we talk to our friends. And as our sciences become more and more focused, there is a need for someone to be able to step back and say, what are the assumptions that bring us all together? And I think philosophy provides that. I think philosophers have a huge skill set to offer when we come to tackling problems that require information from a wide range of perspectives.
Philosophers question and clarify the most fundamental concepts and ideas that shape our lives. Through dialogue, philosophy teaches the capacity to recognize flawed reasoning and to appreciate and evaluate different points of view, both personal and cultural. It helps you to engage critically with very difficult issues. It investigates questions that concern you personally and addresses the many challenges facing society today. Some of the questions you will think about in philosophy are, what is right, just, or true, and what is not? How can we tell? Who has power over us? And in turn, what power do we have? Can we ever know anything with certainty? Is there such a thing as freedom? What is a human being? And what is a human mind? Why do we find some things useful, important, threatening, or beautiful? What impact do differences in race, class, age, ability, privilege, and education have on lived experience? What kind of life is worth living? The skills gained in philosophy are highly transferable and will serve you throughout your life, personally, professionally, and socially. Critical thinking and clear writing have immediate practical applications in a range of professions, such as law, teaching, medicine, journalism, business and management, to name only a few. In recent years, employers have started to place greater emphasis on independent thought, critical thinking, and innovation. A philosophical approach is now, perhaps more than ever, in high demand.
It is grounded in the deepest curiosity about the world, about the cosmos, about our place in it. Human beings have been curious since there were human beings, and I think philosophy is about that curiosity.
It's almost like an art form, to tell you the truth. It's somewhere between like math and painting. Because you have like a set, you use your logic, you use your reason, there's set rules to it. And you don't really go outside those rules, but you create something new using those rules that you just don't really get in other disciplines.
Philosophy, I think, is the practice of seeking answers to life's big questions and problems with the help of systematic reasoning and experience.
I think philosophy could be considered both a method and a lifestyle and an academic discipline, depending on how you approach it.
It's a conflict of trying to understand our place in the universe, trying to understand how we should relate to one another, and trying to understand how we can improve ourselves.
By studying philosophy, I have found that there were things that I would never have thought of that I come to understand and grasp, and it expands the boundaries. As we ordinarily think that there are boundaries to what we can know and what we can't know. And I think philosophy to some degree is stretching that boundary personally for you as an individual, being able to know things that you thought you couldn't know.
You can actually use your intellect, use your own mind, your own ideas to then reinforce what you do or change what you do.
I think philosophy is to the mind as a well-rounded workout is to the body. Promotes an efficiency of its processes.
Broaden your horizons, broaden your thinking. I think you would become a better listener, better able to think about what you think your opinion is based on good conversations with others.
People with philosophy degrees make actually a lot of money after after graduation. Surprisingly, there's some interesting statistics about how many different fields people with philosophy degrees go into.
Philosophy will help you discover those extra layers of meaning behind the answers that are typically given, or help you overturn answers that are typically given and let you seek new answers that maybe solve more problems or lead you in new directions.
In times of crisis, when people are unable to understand things very well, the interest in philosophy seems to peak. And we seem to be living in a time where a lot of things that we've taken for granted for a long time are being called into question, and you can't do better at trying to get at those things than by looking through the lens of philosophy.
It is empowering to the individual, because the way I've seen the program, it takes you as a student and gives you the opportunity to succeed in a way that you feel is best suited for you.
It's a great environment at Westchester University to be studying philosophy because you have faculty who are very invested in your life personally, in you, and willing to help at whatever level you're at.
Our classes are very open-ended. Professors are really into listening to your side of the argument, and they're very helpful in helping you to understand concepts that you don't understand that would be unfamiliar to you.
The faculty here, I would say, provide a well-rounded array of options in approaching the field. Courses available include the philosophy of art, animal ethics, environmental ethics, business ethics, feminist theory, Asian philosophy, etc. You can really study what you're interested in and see where that takes you.
It's a nice area, it's a nice school, it's growing, the resources here are great, and the department itself is a really, really homey place to be.
You learn philosophy by actually doing it right from day one.
There's such a wide variety of courses in philosophy that one can take that we want to leave students as much freedom as we can to chart their own course.
We have people working in metaphysics, the theory of knowledge, moral theory, the philosophy of art, philosophy of law. So you really have the ability while you're writing your bachelor's degree to explore different areas of philosophy and get a sense of where your interest lies.
And it's a community of people who love philosophy and who love doing philosophy and love talking philosophy, and they actually have a great time.
The most memorable moments for me at York are the classroom conversations, struggling through the ideas, wrestling with things, knowing that we could argue about an idea, but a notion about some kind of political conviction, and then outside of the classroom, most of us could go and hang out and have a drink afterwards, play pool in one of the lounges, and continue the conversation there. And the key was, we were still friends.
The professors in the philosophy department are fantastic. We've got some very established names such as Wesley Craig, who works a lot in business ethics, and Lorraine Code, who is one of the most influential feminist philosophers of the past 20 years or so, as well as some very strong up-and-coming philosophers. We have Michael Giudice, who's recently co-written a book on the philosophy of law that's being published by Oxford University Press, Henry Jackman, who does a lot of work in philosophy of language, being published in very good journals. So on the research side, it's a very strong department, and there's a very strong commitment to good teaching.
So one of the greatest things about coming to York for me was the connection that I was able to make with some of the professors, not only in class, but afterwards, their openness and their willingness to answer questions, to respond to lengthy and arbitrary emails. But one of the wonderful things for me was the practicality of the program as well. Yes, it was academic, it was intellectual, it was about big ideas and so on, but it also had made real contact with reality for me in so many ways. And one of those ways was through the material that we were studying and some of the philosophers we were looking at, but also really the relationships that I was able to develop with people like Claudio Duran and Jean Saint-Don and Arnold Latuaro.
People born in Germany, Lebanon, United States, India. So it's a diverse group of people, and that's representative, I think, of the open-minded nature of the department, that we're not doing just traditional philosophical issues and questions, but want it to be open to new perspectives, so African philosophy, Islamic philosophy.
My name is Ellen Carroll, and I am from Portsmouth, Rhode Island. I didn't actually really know what philosophy was until I started here. First semester, I absolutely loved my philosophy seminar. After taking that class, I took another philosophy class and absolutely loved that class. I just decided after that that I still wanted to keep taking philosophy classes, so the best way to do that would be to declare the major and keep going with it. One of the great things about philosophy is that we're able to study a lot of big questions that we kind of take for granted and really look into why we do certain things and does it make sense. I'm taking a class called Philosophy and Medicine. We've been talking a lot about patients who report hearing voices. What does that actually mean, and what does that tell us about normal human consciousness?
Do you have an example of
It's interesting to think about how different what I'm saying is versus what a schizophrenic patient might be saying, and I'm hoping that they're different, but it's definitely an interesting question to consider. If they die from the effects of the disease. Philosophy is definitely a challenging major. Reading works by these world-renowned philosophers, and to have to pick apart their argument and treat ourselves as a peer to people who are clearly not our peers, but enter into that conversation and kind of hold my own. It really teaches you that you have to have a strong argument. You have to really learn how to present yourself and your argument clearly. You have to be able to stand by what you wrote. I really enjoy that kind of challenge. The area in philosophy that I've been focusing on for my senior thesis has been moral philosophy, specifically giving money to aid organizations. Most people consider that something that they're not obligated to do. Is that something that is really just a free choice, or is that something that we really have a duty to be doing? What really is the best way to help people who desperately need help? I think that's a really interesting thing to think about. After graduation, I will be working as a consulting associate in Chicago, and I could not be more excited. I think that philosophy has really prepared me for whatever I will be taking on after graduation. I could not be happier about the courses I've taken and the professors I've been able to work with and the issues I've been able to explore, and I wouldn't change any of it.
Studying a postgraduate degree in philosophy involves sustained engagement with philosophical issues at an advanced level and working on a program of transferable skills development under the tuition of expert researchers. The scope of the options available and the exceptional research strengths of the department across both of these areas enable students on the MA in philosophy to develop a range of expertise across the subject that is available nowhere else. Studied full-time, the MA in philosophy is a one-year program. Students on the course take 6 modules, 5 of which are optional, and write a dissertation. Module study must include at least one drawn from each of 3 distinct areas of philosophy. Theoretical philosophy, which includes options like epistemology, philosophy of mind, philosophy of language. Value theory, which includes options such as ethics and political philosophy, and the history of philosophy. So we have a well-balanced program that makes this an excellent general philosophy master's degree program, but we also have a range of options that enables students to benefit from the unique profile of expertise that exists across the philosophy department at the University of Warwick. In addition to these 5 optional modules, students take a core research methods module, and students study this throughout the autumn and spring term. This module is designed to enable students to develop the analytical and argumentative skills that are needed for research in philosophy. In addition to submitting coursework for each of these modules, students write a 10,000-word dissertation. The work on the dissertation begins in earnest in the 3rd term. Each student on the program is assigned a supervisor at the start of the year who's available to provide support and feedback on the thesis as it develops during the course of the year.
I'm often asked, how is it that you can attract such great scholars? Scholars from the leading public and private universities the world over. And the answer is that we are involved in a really significant project. A project that scholars feel enthusiastic about joining. There are specific ways we do that, which are very, very powerful. And one example would be the scale of teaching that our students do. So we're very privileged, very fortunate at the Graduate Center that our students can receive in very small classes teaching and supervision from the world's leading scholars. But whereas at a typical research university, that learning would remain in the classroom, in the graduate seminar. At the Graduate Center, our students, during the course of the 3rd, 4th, and 5th year, undertake, as part of their training, teaching undergraduates at one of the university's undergraduate colleges. And every year, our students teach about 200,000 CUNY undergraduates in about 75 or 7,700 undergraduate classes. So we're located in the heart of New York City, devoted not just to education as a public good, but also devoted to the proposition that the more we train our students, the more we repay the public's trust. So what that guarantees is that the very high quality, very advanced learning that goes on here at 365 Fifth Avenue is translated across the city's flight days.
Coming out of high school, I had a lot of burning questions that were not going away. So things like, what's the right way to treat animals? Is it okay for people to have abortions?
After taking ethics in my second semester of sophomore year, I got a lot of focus, got a lot of ideas for what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it.
I think my nature is very introspective and I'm very much a thinker. So philosophy has been sort of my outlet for creativity and the way that I can express my ideas.
I think the majority of us started off doing philosophy because it was cool. We had these burning questions, right? We had these kind of questions that we wanted answers, and we wanted somebody to help us figure out how to think about them.
Once I took it, I very quickly realized that it was a discipline that encouraged me to think in ways that I'd been criticized for my whole life.
I went off to college, didn't know what philosophy was. I took a course. We had to write a paper that just really, really excited me, and I spent time thinking about it, talking about it outside of class. And then I decided, hey, I want to do more of this.
My freshman year in college, we read Plato's Republic, and I just mesmerized. I really wanted to know if Plato was right. It just completely grabbed my imagination, grabbed my attention.
The way that I got into the program was that I just took some, and then I took more, and progressively more, until I realized that this was my passion.
The philosophy department at Bowling Green has a number of significant strengths, and we're really recognized around the world. The primary focus of our program is ethics, social philosophy, and political philosophy, and we have more depth in that area, more really good faculty, and a greater variety of courses than just about any other department in the world.
See, one of the things that people typically say is that philosophy is not very relevant. And one of the reasons why I came to Bowling Green was because there is a special emphasis here on what's called applied ethics. So business ethics, medical ethics, political philosophy.
Classes are a lot of fun, especially if you're interested in these things. Then it's really exciting to be able to get to engage with other students, to get to engage with these ideas and perspectives that you've probably not come across.
It just felt very natural, this investigation of ideas and philosophers, and it sort of incorporates other things I'm interested in, like history and literature and film and religion.
The professors are incredibly knowledgeable, and it's really interesting for them to play devil's advocate and for them to challenge you on the things that you thought you knew for sure.
Something that I want people to know is that philosophical thinking is addictive, because thinking like that is difficult, but it is a lot of fun, because you feel like when you're done that you've really sort of moved the gears of the universe.
It will challenge you spiritually and academically and probably emotionally eventually, that it'll challenge you to your core.
I spend, and I think most of my colleagues spend, a lot of time with students outside of class. I've had extra class sessions with students who wanted it, a lot of independent one-on-one time.
Also, there's a movie night that Dr. Callan hosts where he'll show a philosophical movie, and it'll take about 2 hours, and then you'll spend an hour afterwards just discussing it, applying contemporary theories, older theories, just comparing it to other movies. As far as looking in the outside world, philosophy can be used for basically anything.
I mean, not all philosophy majors are going to go on to be professional philosophers. They're going to be lawyers, or they're going to be public advocates, or they're going to be also, I mean, there are all sorts of things that philosophy can prepare you for, right?
Philosophy majors tend to score the highest on the medical school admission test. Now, there are not a lot of philosophy majors who take that test, but they score very well on it. Philosophy is really good preparation if you want to go to law school, because the LSAT questions and the kinds of things you do in law school are very similar to the kind of reasoning you do in the study of philosophy.
I'm Victor Tenbrink, and I attended Bowling Green State University, and I went from there up to University of Michigan for law school. Philosophy was a good background for it because law allowed me to apply those skills in a very practical way. When you solve a problem, you're saving somebody money, or you're keeping them out of jail.
My name's Eileen Baker, and I am an emergency physician. I decided to come back to BG, and I'm pursuing a graduate degree in philosophy while working full-time. So I am a part-time student and a full-time doctor. Philosophy opens doors for pretty much anything else. I feel like it is the type of background that a lot of employers are interested in. It is one of those things that you can employ everywhere. And for me, I find it to be very rewarding in what I'm interested in, because I'm interested in ethics and interested in how that applies to medicine.
Currently, I'm thinking about going to Detroit and trying to start a nonprofit chapter of Critical Resistance, which is a nonprofit to reduce the impact or eventually abolish the prison industrial complex.
The plan right now is to go into grad school, go into extra innings, and keep doing philosophy, and someday probably teach or work maybe for a think tank or a policy research institute. So that's the plan.
Take a philosophy course to see if this is something you really like. And if you like it, take 2 or 3 more. And if you do well in it, think about making philosophy a major. Doesn't mean you have to become a professional philosopher. I mean, only crazy people do that.
Just talk to people. They'll help you figure out whether this is really a good fit for you.
Go to your academic advisor right off the bat. Maybe get reference to someone in the philosophy program. There are a lot of really open people in the department who are willing to talk to you.
Hi, I'm Talia Sellers and I'm a PhD student at the University of Auckland. I'm in the philosophy department looking at philosophy of time. My PhD is in the relationship between time travel, causation and the direction of time. Time travel being understood as localized regions of space-time in which the direction of time is perhaps opposite that of other regions of space-time. And so I'm interested in how those localized regions of space-time, what's going on in those regions and what's happening with causation in those regions. I've been interested in philosophy of time since I started doing philosophy, and I've kind of been interested in issues to do with time, I guess since I was a kid. And so the great thing about doing a PhD is that you can kind of design your own PhD topic and research into something that interests you. I really like studying at the University of Auckland. I found that there's a lot of support services that are available to you as a PhD student. One of the things that I learnt was the 500 words a day rule. So if you do nothing else, do 500 words a day. I've also been on a number of writing retreats with the Faculty of Arts, and those have been really beneficial. It's been really great to spend some time working on your writing, thinking about the process of writing together and spending time with those students and just discussing things and sharing tips and sharing the experiences. Quite cool. It's been really helpful. In the philosophy department, there's a really good postgraduate community. The philosophy department has a graduate student seminar series, and this is a way for us to practice our presentation skills and share kind of work that we're doing and get advice from other students in a safe environment. And then afterwards, we always go out for pizza. When you're an undergraduate, you kind of know how you're doing because everybody has the same essay question, and so you can compare your own progress to other people. But when you're a PhD student or a research student, this can be a lot harder because it's really hard to compare how you're doing with other people and how your progress is and stuff, but it's still really helpful just to meet with your supervisors and other students and just to kind of share this experience. And everybody's been there and everybody knows what it's like. And doing philosophy is like doing a whole bunch of logic puzzles every day. It's like people that like Sudoku would like philosophy. I loved tutoring and I loved working as a tour kind of mentor. It really motivates your own work when you see the students that you're working with getting excited about philosophy and getting excited about their work. Explaining things to somebody else helps you understand what you're working on as well. It helps it clarify it for you. So I really like it when the students tell you at the end of the semester that they had a really great time and you kind of inspired their interest in this topic, and it's not just a course that they have to do, it's something that they're enjoying working on.
Anybody who's ever been to an elementary school knows that every child's an artist. It's only that when they grow up, the world tells them you no longer can be an artist. You've got to go earn money. But that spirit is in all of us, and we find a way here to nurture that spirit. We allow cadets to express themselves in creative form as a complement to the learning that goes on in our classrooms.
I think the humanities as a whole really allow you to relate to people on another level.
It really teaches you the value of things that we tend to push aside in military culture.
We can share an appreciation that transcends, the surface differences.
Every once in a while, you kind of want to do something a little bit different. You kind of want to do something that you feel like doing.
There's a lot of ways that we can express that through the films that we've seen.
Storm King Art Center, that's just down the road.
Drama class.
Several different cafes that have live music.
The film and film theory.
Phenomenal opportunities, phenomenal museums to go to right here in New York City.
Live performance in Shakespeare.
Being able to decipher what Shakespeare meant in the midst of a scene very complicated, those skills will translate. They'll translate to the battlefield.
Through art philosophy and literature, and specifically philosophy, we definitely explore ethics and morals and what is right, and we are seeking clarity and truth.
On the conflicts that we're currently involved in, there isn't a single right answer, and in many cases there's no good answer.
There's a lot of right answers and there are a lot of wrong answers, but it's a matter of picking the best answer, the best solution.
War is, it's trite, but war is serious business. It involves the taking of life on a massive scale. It's the kind of thing that we want people to handle carefully and responsibly.
The act of mulling over these things and deciding for yourself what is right is what's going to allow me as a future officer to make the right decision when it comes down to it.
This department kind of teaches you how to think in those terms, how to think, hey, we have a few good options here, now which one, how can we capitalize the situation, and how can we make the situation the best it can be?
The job of the philosopher to question those starting points, to dig a little bit deeper. And in terms of the methodology, we insist that our students think very clearly and critically, that they try to discern sort of what's beneath the surface to a certain extent.
My major has taught me to really pay attention to the words that are being said and what people are actually saying when they're not really saying it.
I think being an APL major makes you comfortable with ambiguity because you address many different topics on many different perspectives.
One of the most interesting and perhaps under-discussed aspects of studying art, philosophy, and literature, particularly literature, is its connection to uncertainty and to helping people prepare for an uncertain world. Literature, fiction in particular, offers us all sorts of on the face of it, implausible plots, narrators who are untrustworthy, who withhold information from us, and who don't present everything to us in neat PowerPoint charts, because as much as we would like the world to look like that, it doesn't.
But what that gives them beyond just confronting ambiguity or uncertainty is also a deeper understanding of the human condition, a deeper understanding of people, and it is the business of the Army to lead people.
As officers, we might not be the ones who are picking up the hammer and nails and building the structure, building the bridges.
We are not technicians. We don't operate large pieces of machinery. We deal in face-to-face communication with real human beings. We need to motivate, we need to lead, we need to understand.
A soldier fresh back from combat or even out in the fight doesn't really want to say what they're feeling, so it's up to you to sort of get past the first layer of whatever is being said and get to the heart of the matter.
The better we understand people, the more we understand and study the human condition, the better leaders we're going to be, the better communicators we're going to be, because we'll be able to understand our soldiers and their needs.
I think that ability to take an ambiguous situation, break it down, and create something tangible out of it is what APL allows me to do.
I mean, that's what closely reading a poem or a novel is all about. And so I think APL really focuses on developing that skill, and especially on an interpersonal level.
We are encouraged to really think outside the box.
We look for emotion and feeling and how that relates to the lives we live and the lives others live.
The fact that we're dealing with people and ideas all the time in art, philosophy, and literature, and then when we get out into the Army, we're going to be dealing with people and ideas. And those ideas are going to turn into decisions that are going to affect people's lives.
It's a different way of thinking. It's a more creative, more unique way of thinking. It's taking those gray areas and being able to decipher them, being able to think through them.
Majoring in art, philosophy, and literature really puts that in perspective and gives you a lot of different information pools and ideas to pull from when you do make those decisions. You'll know to be the right one.
Before I came to the Graduate Center, I did an undergraduate degree at Simon Fraser University, which is just outside of Vancouver, and before that I grew up in a town called Sydney in Nova Scotia on the east coast of Canada. So I actually got interested in philosophy when I was in high school. You know, I started reading books by Nietzsche and Sartre and stuff like that, and then slowly that transitioned into a more of an interest in analytic philosophy through people like Wittgenstein. So when I was an undergraduate, my interests got into the philosophy of language, and the Graduate Center is, you know, one of the 3 or 4 best philosophy of language programs in the English-speaking world. So that it just was a natural place for me to apply, and when I got in, I was really excited to come here. So my main project right now is my dissertation, and the purpose of that dissertation is to come up with a new foundation for the study of meaning in natural language, so natural language semantics. You know, the basic idea behind most of the way that linguists and philosophers have studied meaning for the last 50 years or so has been that the meaning of an expression, a sentence or a word, is something about what the sentence or the word represents. So the sentence's truth conditions, or the words, you know, the word's referent, or the concept that it expresses, and that works fine for some words like proper names. So the name, you know, the name Daniel refers to Daniel. That seems to sort of capture its meaning pretty well. But then there are other words and sentences that seem to be tied a lot more to the way that we use them rather than to what they stand for. So for example, the word that, we can use it to refer to all kinds of different things in different circumstances. And imperative sentences like keep listening, that doesn't seem to be, the meaning of that sentence doesn't seem to be capturable by saying what it stands for or what situation it represents. And so my dissertation tries to incorporate a better account of these kind of use theoretic considerations into a theory of linguistic meaning. Natural language semantics is this research program that's been going on in philosophy and linguistics since, around the middle of the 1960s, and figures like Donald Davidson and Richard Montague came up with these systematic ways of showing how the meaning of a sentence depends on the structure of the sentence and the words that are in the sentence. And they've made all kinds of progress in that regard. They've got mathematically precise ways of showing how all this stuff works. It's just that in some cases their way of showing how sentence meaning depends on word meaning doesn't seem to capture these expressions that don't seem to be about representing the world as being a certain way, but seem to be something more about how we use the expressions to do things. So to get people to have certain kinds of thoughts, or to get people to perform certain kinds of actions, or to refer to different things in different circumstances. And so the sort of project that I'm interested in is about trying to incorporate those more context-sensitive aspects of meaning into semantics. The figures that I'm most influenced by in my own work include the ordinary language and speech act theoretic traditions like J.L. Austin and John Searle and Paul Grice, and actually some members of this department like Stephen Neal. What the people in those traditions have done a good job of is shown how linguistic meaning is tied to the way that communities of speakers actually use words and sentences to sort of produce effects in each other, rather than just how those words and sentences themselves kind of stand in relations to the world. On my view, the meaning of an expression is the type of speech act that we can perform with it, right? So a speech act is basically a speaker's contribution to an episode of communication. And so whereas the sort of dominant tradition in linguistics thinks of the meaning of an expression as sort of what it stands for or what it refers to or something like that, the speech act theoretic approach to meaning that I advocate thinks of the meaning of an expression as sort of what we do with it. So I've given quite a few different talks around New York City and at some different graduate conferences around North America, so in Ontario and in British Columbia, and I gave a talk at UCLA a couple of years ago. And I've been lucky enough also to get to travel to Europe a couple of times, and I've given a talk in Latvia and one in France, and attended some other conferences in other parts of Europe, quite a few actually. So yeah, I mean, I've gotten a few of these doctoral student research grants that the Graduate Center gives out to students. They can be worth up to $1,500, and I've gotten those a couple of times, and those have supported my travel to Budapest to go to a big summer school there, and to Latvia to go to a big summer school there. And there are also some smaller sort of $300 to $500 awards that I've gotten to go to other conferences. So in the spring at the Pacific APA, the American Philosophical Association in San Diego, I'm going to present some work that I'm co-authoring with Rachel McKinney, another student here at the Graduate Center. The basic idea behind this work is that when speakers are communicating and they're in a position of power imbalance, the more powerful person in the conversation can in a certain sense, extract speech from the less powerful member of the conversation. So one place that this plays out, and that Rachel has a bunch of other work on that's really interesting, is in contexts like police interrogation, right? So there are all kinds of tricks and different ways that police officers can use to basically get the people they're interrogating to say things that they don't necessarily mean or wouldn't want to say or don't even recognize themselves as saying. And so we're sort of interested in the mechanisms by which that takes place. The Graduate Center is one of the best places in the world to study the philosophy of language. That's what I study. It's a pretty big, vibrant department with all kinds of really interesting research going on across lots of different disciplines. So I've had occasion to learn not only from a bunch of really great professors, but also from lots of other students who work on things like the philosophy of mind and philosophy of biology and logic and philosophy of art and just about everything. Also, the Graduate Center is right in the middle of probably the most exciting philosophical community in the world right now, centered around New York, but including like Rutgers and Princeton and Yale and a few other schools that are all kind of part of this huge community of people whose work is all feeding into each other. So I was involved in founding the New York Philosophy of Language Workshop a couple of years ago, and that's a a group where we have weekly talks by different philosophers of language. It started out mostly with graduate students from around the New York area, and we've kind of branched out and gotten people in from all over the world at this point, including some philosophers and some linguists, and both students and junior faculty and postdocs. And we've had at this point about 40 talks by people from all over the place. Yeah, so this September I was one of the co-organizers of a big conference on speech act theory, and we had sort of philosophers and linguists come from all over North America and a couple from England to give talks about speech act theory, which is sort of one of the traditional topics in the philosophy of language for the last 50 years or so. And we were lucky enough to just have an enormously great turnout. So we had John Searle as one of our speakers, and we had Ray Langton, who came from Cambridge, to talk about some of her applications of speech act theory to social and political philosophy. And I co-organized that conference with a student from Columbia and a student from NYU. These are the guys with whom I organized the New York Philosophy of Language workshop, and the Speech Act conference kind of really grew out of that workshop. I've taken classes at both NYU and Columbia, and I've sat in on classes at Rutgers, and I've, at one time or another, been to philosophical events at just about every school in New York City. So lots of times at Columbia, at Princeton, at NYU, at Rutgers. As I said before, the philosophical community in New York City is sort of unrivaled, and it is pretty closely knit. So I think that the best thing about living in New York City is actually how many smart and interesting people that you run into everywhere. So I noticed this pretty soon after getting here, right? I went to a few different parties with people that I knew, and it seemed like every person that I had a conversation with did something interesting and had interesting stories to tell and were really good at what they did. And I think that's the most exciting thing about living here.
Philosophy explores the meaning, truth, and logical connections of our most fundamental ideas.
Philosophy is a way of taking up the world that allows students to come into contact with the questions that are most fundamental of what it means to be a human being.
When students see how interesting and important it is, when they make connections between people like Descartes and Plato and Hume and Aquinas and their own experiences.
Bringing it to people who have had very limited exposure to it, they've heard the word but they don't really know what it means in any kind of rigorous sense, I think of it as a gift.
And when we're reading the ideas of philosophers, and the text somehow engages us and makes us think of something we haven't thought of before. What philosophy did for me was, it was a chance to address the deeper questions of life at a time when I was young and having to decide what to do with my life.
What it gives the students, it allows them to think clearly, it allows them to speak and write and communicate clearly. It allows them to come at complex problems in a way that will allow them to solve them.
It makes them less likely just to accept things at face value or because someone says so. It makes them want to know what the reasons are in support of something.
Philosophy is cool because it allows students to look through a lot of the deceptions and illusions that we take for reality in everyday American life.
Philosophy is cool because it really asks the deepest questions. It's the most bottom of bottom lines you can imagine.
When I first got here at the university in the fall of 2000, we had 5 majors and no minors. I just did a count. We have 26 majors and 30 minors. That's a big improvement.
Students realize that philosophy is a minor they can accomplish easily. It's a great second major. It'll prepare them for tests that they have to take. So the philosophy department is really kind of where it's happening at UDM.